Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's live webinar. We have a little bit of technical issues, but it's been resolved. So, as usual, um, we have started our live webinar. Specifically, you know that we are doing this live webinar with Anna Bravington co-hosting these events from Andy Business Club. And it's 2 years we are doing it. It's a long time,
Wow.
isn't
Yeah, that is a long time. And it's just flown by. It's flown by.
it?
It
Yeah.
feels like we only started yesterday, but hopefully, or in those 2 years, we've helped some neurodiverse founders.
Yeah, yeah. So this year, in December, we're going to be completing 2 years of our Andy Business Club. We have a vision to support Andy individuals, entrepreneur, and those people they wanted to work and as well as do business. And we have produced more than 20 episodes of individual webinar, and we will. You can find it on our YouTube channels and as well as on LinkedIn as well. And if you find something useful from here, then that will be our achievements. So, Anna, today we're going to be discussing business development for Andy founders. And earlier, we recorded a podcast, the business carve podcast that Anna is doing, creating the carve.
Yeah.
We talk about ND founders and the gaps and how we can work with them. So today, I think, Anna, we extend that conversation to the next levels because, when we talk about ND founders, until they find out their gaps, it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. I mean, I'm an ND founder. I I remember thinking, why can't I finish a project? And why can't I do why can't I do why I keep procrastinating? And it's funny that actually my business sort of stalled quite significantly because I of my ADHD traits, but I didn't know I actually had ADHD because I've only just been diagnosed 3 months ago. But I sort of found out a couple of years ago that I may have it. And my business is 4 years old now. So, I started going through those bits of what oh God, why am I doing this to myself? Why is things not going quite right? And I didn't realise because I didn't realise I had ADHD, and because of that ADHD, there were gaps in sort of my not my skill set, but my behaviours maybe, and areas that for running a business you need. I'm very ideasy. I have loads of ideas, but those ideas kind of sometimes just go and disappear into the ether and nothing happens. Whereas I'm always jealous because Dr. Shah he's not just a thinker, he's a doer as well. So he gets stuff done and he organizes everything and it's brilliant. And I'm like, actually, I think I need some of those skill set because when you're in business, if you're always thinking and not doing, nothing much happens. So often I'm actually surprised when something does happen in my business because I get in the way all the time.
Yeah, I think creating the curve is a huge milestone for you, and you have completed so many episodes till now, and we started 2 years back on the Fairham Innovation Center that will start and the Business Club, and from there. We gradually crawling down and completing each of the episode and those things. And now, after 2 years, we can see that yes, we have done significant progress developing these podcasts and talking about individual problems, solving anti founders. And we also learn from there because, you know, everything that we do, there is a learning curve as well as a teaching curve that you teach people. And you also learn from them because every person is different and every task is different because the task is modified with the person that you're going to be helping with. And you know, specifically, we wanted to discuss today what biggest growth challenge Andy founders faces today. So, do you think, as I'm Andy founders, similarly, I did not know my problems, I had lots of problems, and I did not know before. I knew that I'm autistic. I knew I'm dyslexic before, but I did not know how to support me or how to get supported from the community, and so on. So there is a biggest challenge and a gap, I would say, for many of our ND founders, that there isn't enough resources, there isn't enough funding, there isn't a lot of other things that we are not capable to fulfill our work properly.
Yeah, that is the thing. When I started down the path of things like access to work and everything, it was just an offhand comment that, of getting the support that from people. And then, it was one thing, like once you start finding out about one thing, you find it spirals. So I started joining Facebook groups, following people on social media that had ADHD that were talking about strategies. And then I started listening to podcasts, and it's weird because once you start going down and thinking, oh, actually there is some support out there, there's a lot. But the one thing that I didn't find a huge amount of was business support. So this is why I'm glad that we've started what we're doing, because it was lots of live support. I think it's Alex Partridge who does the podcast and the book Now It All Makes Sense. That was very much about life, and it's supported me a lot in that way. But when it comes to business, I think there's not as much support, or it's not talked about enough. From support like what we do, but also, we've talked about on previous episodes, access to work, PIP. Some of these areas that can help. Even I do a lot of work in sort of grants and funding, and there are grants and funding to help disabled business owners as well. I mean, not loads of them, but there are little bits around, and you can sort of accumulate sort of like some help here and there. But actually, unless you go digging for it, it's really hard to find, isn't it?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because I did not know about access to work. I did not know a lot of other grant and funding, but uh, mostly what I have seen, when you work with ND individuals, they have a huge knowledge about a lot of different things, but they don't have adequate knowledge on, okay, how they can get supported from government, how can they get funding from local government or any other funding opportunities. And I think mostly ND people, they are introverted, so that's why they don't want to go and mingle with different groups and different people and different organizations. So that's why initially they suffered, specifically because I am a receiver of access to work. The support I receive from them is huge, because some of the things I'm very good at, but some of the things I need support. And if someone is supporting that, and as well as paying that, that's a great add-on. And it also stir my work to the different levels, because the work I used to do in usually before the support was aided to me, I can compare that and now, like, okay, I can do more work now, because I don't need to think about my spelling mistake. I don't need to think about my scheduling. I don't need to think about what I'm going to be doing next. So if someone is doing that for me, that's a great add-on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same. So a few of my favorite bits I got from Access to Work was a system that I can dictate into, and then AI converts it into a bit like sort of Oscar AI sort of thing. It's called Caption Ed, and you talk into it, because I verbalize a lot. I have fibromyalgia and ADHD, so not only is my brain going 50 million miles, but particularly in the winter, like at the moment, my hands are very seized up. And I struggle to type. And so for me to be able to, the freedom I now have that I can verbalize what I'm thinking into Caption Ed, and it will translate it, but it'll also fix it for me as well a little bit as I go, is fantastic. And then I also have Claro Read, which is they have the mind mapping software that they've got in there is fantastic for me to organize my thoughts. Really nice software. And also it reads back to me as well. So I can use it to read web pages. So if it's too long and wordy, it reads back to me. And it's the sort of simple tools that are just give me a little bit of help here, there, and everywhere. I also outside of Access to Work, I pay for ChatGPT, and that's really good for, we talk about that quite regularly about, these AI processes that they are really good for putting your ideas in, helping to stimulate your brain, get it going, and sometimes step away from the overwhelm. So I use those, and then I've got some admin support who, because my biggest area is organisation. She's been great. She's helping me organise my podcast. So contacting people, making a process that I can follow, and all this sort of, that to most people probably seems like quite simple stuff. But to me, these small bits are actually stopping my business growing at the rate it should, because it was getting in the way, and there was all these sort of little gaps along the way that were the problems that I had. I don't take ADHD medication at the moment, so my brain is still full of bees. Although I'm thinking about trying it when I've been put in for the 10-month wait or whatever it is to try it. So my brain's always full of bees. So what I like to do is just take the little bees out and give them to my assistant, and she'll help organise them for me. So I know someone says that ADHD is like having all your tabs open. Imagine being able to just give a few of those tabs to someone else to organise and take away that mental load. Because I also have fibro as well. I get quite low energy. So, trying to overcompensate for ADHD plus getting tired through fibro, that energy depletes quite quickly. And then I end up in pain and difficulty. And particularly it's quite seasonal as well. So in the winter, my arms and hands get really painful. So all of this just helps me work a little bit faster. And it's not the solution to everything. I think some people it might solution, but the thing is, I still got ADHD and I still got fibro, so it's not taking the pain away as such, and it's not taking the ADHD away, like the negative sides of it. But and I still have to do things like I have to tell my assistant that I need something done, which can be hard for me. So it's not the perfect solution. I don't think there is a perfect solution, but it's just sort of like that equalizing things a little bit, isn't it? It's just helping.
I totally agree with you, because ND founders, they sometimes don't think about the depth of their work. That's one thing. Second thing, I work with a lot of ND founders that they cannot prioritize their work. There's another thing, because most of the way that we have brilliant ideas, but what ideas do we want it to carry on at that time, and based on the business as well, because the geography you are in, the business domain you are in, as well as the customer you're going to serve. So if you have a brilliant idea and you want to grow that idea to the next levels, either you have to have funding, or you have to have like right proportionate decision making. Like, okay, you have a brilliant idea, but that idea is not appropriate for the time being. Maybe that is appropriate 5 years later. But what you should do, should you just wait, or we would do something to grow that idea to the next levels, and then it comes up with working along with multiple projects and those things. And I have found that most of the ND business people, they have like huge ideas, and they don't work with a business coach, I would say, like you and me, to prioritize those ideas to the next levels. They don't do enough research. We go by our heart, not our brain. That's one thing, because when you go for your heart, you love it, you're going to do it. But it's not like your brain, what really the situation, or what really the atmosphere or the community want from you. And that times we struggle a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes, because I think we talked about this on my podcast, but it's around, as sort of neurodiverse people in the world, the world isn't designed for us, and we have a lot of stuff in our brains all of the time, and knowing where to focus and concentrate when we're trying to deal not just with the business but with life in general. If you're, I see my son going through life of it's too, he can't, he struggles to do schoolwork. He's really bright, really switched on, but actually he's fallen behind in, behind what the average is in school. And it's not that he can't do it, it's because the classroom's too noisy. There's this. And I feel like as a business owner, that's similar, because like you said, you can't see that sort of wood for the trees. There's so much going on as a business owner. Where do I focus? How do I make this better for myself? When actually I'm trying to cope with being overstimulated all the time, with overwhelm, with coping with maybe if you've got other conditions like pain and tiredness and all of this. And then this is why I tend to go more on those feelings, because that's all that I've got left. There's no brain power left. I'm going with the feelings. Oh, what do I feel like doing? What feels best? Because actually, there's nothing left here. I've used it all up, and it's too overwhelmed. So then I'll just go on. So I fancy doing that today because I'm going on my feeling. Because actually, I couldn't cope with picking something maybe that is too overwhelming or too much, or putting that thought into that. I'm just like, I need something that's low overwhelm, but actually that might not be the thing that's getting me forward. Like the other day, I spent 2 days on a new membership platform having a look at it, because I, once again, shiny new object, thought that, that might be better for our customers. Luckily, in the end, after 2 days, I decided it wasn't right, and it was just me testing it out. But then I could have spent that 2 days marketing, because it doesn't matter what platform I'm on. I need to do the marketing for it. So, but I really like testing out new platforms. And because my brain was really tired, it picked the path of least resistance, the thing I was enjoying. And so I find that really hard. It's difficult to prioritize when the world is just overwhelming you generally.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But in that scenario, what I have suffered myself and the solution I have come across with is just like working with a opposite characteristics. Like, okay, I don't like writing things, but I would work someone different that he will or she will like to write things. And similar way, I don't like accounting, so I need someone to work with that they like accounting. So in that way, it balanced. So what I have suffered my previous lot of business I did, I was very versed on accounting and very versed of communication and those things. So I'm very good at planning. I'm very good at execution. So I can work with team nicely, and I can communicate and finish product on time. But when you ask me, okay, do accounting, how do you balance, how do you grow the business, how do you know every bits and pieces, how much you are spending, I'm very bad on that. So what I have learned from this mistake, that I need someone that they can support me with this. And now even if I don't like it, I have my business development director, and he will say, I have to sit with you today, and this is today. There isn't an escape, and I have to. And if you don't do that, there's going to be big trouble for you. So these things, it's equally prioritizing these things. Like, okay, you need to listen to someone, that the gaps you have will steer your work to the next levels. Like, we are human, and as an Andy person, we have different development needs and as well as goals. So when you cannot prioritize those goals, you need to find someone to grow with you, to work with you. It's just like sharing the stake with someone that will give you bigger opportunities.
Yeah, it's that gap analysis, isn't it? My new assistant, she fills all the gaps. She's much more of a doer than I am. She's still creative, because I still need someone with that creative brain, but she really likes marketing. But she's one of the people, like, for example, I have loads of ideas for marketing, and they just stay in my head. But she's like a platform specialist. She's used to putting like TikToks up, Instagram up, different social posts. So she's and she's good at planning and scheduling that content. So what we can do is I can download my brain on what types of content I want, and she can start scheduling it in. And then all she needs to do is say, Anna, make this video, or Anna, write this bit of content, because that's what I need. I need that accountability, sort of what you're talking about, the accountability. that's why I started the podcast, because my podcast is every month and it goes live, every week, and it goes live on a Monday. And I know that people listen to it on a Monday morning. So if my podcast isn't there, that's letting them down. And so that accountability keeps me going. I've just released my 30th episode. I mean, it's the first time I've ever done 30 of anything. So it's quite surprising. And I've managed to get it. So yeah, and I take it one step at a time. It's like 1 year, then I'll get to 2 years. We've been going 2 years now. It's just that step by step, but actually that accountability side is where that's where I thrive. If someone is expecting something and you can't get out of it, then that's my sort of key thing. And the thing is, once you know that, it's like, how do you benefit from that? How do I make that accountability into every step of what I'm doing? Because there are tasks that I've got that I've been sitting on for 6 months that actually really do need it. They're getting quite urgent now. But I still haven't quite got that accountability for them. So now I'm like, how do I build that into these tasks? Because I know that will motivate me. And I know a lot of ADHD people do. We do work quite well with that accountability checkpoints and getting things done. And for me, sometimes not a checkpoint isn't enough. I need something quite big, like, for example, going live to an audience or knowing that people are sitting there. So, for example, I need to get 2 roller banners done, and actually, I need them done because like my background when I'm videoing doesn't look fabulous. I want to do some new videos. I'm still doing videos. It hasn't stopped me doing the videos, but actually, it's getting quite urgent now because I need to do some courses. But I can't quite get myself over that line of doing it, and it's trying to work out your psychology of what's going to help you do it, so it is a bit of self-reflection, I think, a lot of the time.
I totally agree with you because we talk about what growth challenge we faces for indie founders every day. Uh, there will be challenge, but you need to also overcome from those challenges, because if you feel all the time that you have a challenge environment and you do not change your tactics, then you're stuck with a jar. Like, okay, you are not trying to overcome your barriers and implement different tactics. So I have found that when I work with any ND personalities, it's just like my strictness, because I know what I have done in my past, and we talk about our age last or on
Yeah.
last episode, that uh, I am experienced like 25 years, including my learning curve and all those things. So those curves and those learning that I have overcome, um, I can easily understand a newcomer. I can easily understand a business in the perspective of the current situation. Like, okay, if they need social media, if they need a video, if they need a business growth, or if they need a versatile software. But things with a newcomer, it's not like that way. They think that, okay, they knows everything, they can solve everything, but it's not that the way the business works. You cannot solve things in 1 or 2 days. You need experience, expertise, or you need to hire people to solve those things that you cannot do.
Yeah, you do. And it's that sort of what you were talking about earlier, about that sort of balancing everyone in the team out. I love people that are new to a role where they've got all that energy and fresh ideas, but then you need the balance of people that are experienced. And then, like you were saying, and I think we were talking about this on my podcast, where you were saying about, focus on a couple of skills per each person,
Mhm.
as because what we're doing is, you said about, we expect everyone to have all of these skill sets, which is this huge range of skill sets, which actually becomes overwhelming. And everybody can't be good at everything. And it's hard in small businesses where you don't have many people. But, for example, I mentioned earlier, I'm quite creative. And people get the best out of me if I'm being creative, ideasy, innovation. In my business or in any place I work, I always you have to do admin and planning, but we have to admit that that isn't my strongest skill set. And the thing, like you were mentioning on the podcast, that well, let's just admit that that's not your strongest skill set. Let's fill the gaps. They have someone that's really good at planning and stuff, and then someone who's really good at creatives, and they work together really well. And because the thing is, the last thing you need is to try and, if someone's really good at creativity and things like that, the last thing you want to do is spend your time going, oh, actually, I want you to do loads of admin and I want you to do loads of this stuff, because but that's not what they're good at. You're trying to hire them for something, or force them into a box that they're not good at. And actually, that will take away, if they're spending all the time doing stuff they hate. That, I know if I'm doing loads of admin, actually my creativity dulls a little bit, because I'm overwhelmed. I'm straining myself to do something else. So I love this idea, this concept you said about sort of gaps, partnering people up with different skill sets, concentrating on a couple, because there's not many people, I don't know any that are absolute experts in creativity, admin, planning, all of these. I mean, I think as neurodiverse people, we're quite broad in our skill sets a lot of time, but even us, we have our specialities. And I always find that's always been my struggle, where someone said, oh, you've got to be good and do this, and this, but also do your main skill set as well. And it doesn't always work. You're not getting the best of people, are you?
No, you can't do that, because as I say that earlier on, you're creating the curve. Like, you can have main characteristics, main expertise, maybe one or two or three, sometimes even more, based on your experience and your age as well, because you need to, age plays a vital role of your learning curves. Because otherwise, if you are 17 years old and you think that, okay, you are doing business for 15 years, that will not support you, because you may started your business at 12, and then now you are 17 years old. Yes, you have some learning curves, but the age is different, because with age you fulfill, you learn, and it's just like trial and error, isn't it? You learn something, you made mistake, you rectify those, and you succeed. So that there is a saying that the more mistakes or more failure you have, the more success you're going to be. Why? Because you learn different things, you learn steps, you learn how to make it right on the second time. So that's the way I think the ND founders, they should think. Like, yes, you have great skill sets, and that skill sets may be in particular domain, so you need to find someone opposite that you can't do, or maybe it will take you time to learn those skills. So you can find someone and learn those skills with a period of time, 2 to 3 years, and then you can say, okay, I have one skill set, so I'm a good developer, and then I have learned with someone, and then now I can say, okay, I'm a very much a good organizer. I was an organizer before, so I have another skill set ticked. So that's way your skill set will grow. So
Do you know what? It's funny, because I started this business, I think I was about, I was just going to say, I started my first business. You really resonated with that. I started my first business around 24, 25. And actually, I sit here now going, if I knew then what I knew now, my first business would have been totally different, that age thing, because the amount I know about business, I'm on my fourth business now. I'm a bit of a serial business opener. And if I opened mine was a web agency. And it was early days. So this was sort of 2024. Sorry, not 2004. And I had a web agency, because I started life as a programmer. So really early. So there wasn't as much competition back then. But I was really experienced. I didn't know anyone that owned their business. No men. Is that what you were thinking? And it was very, and I ended up closing it after a couple of years, because it was too much, for someone so young, to, when I had no one to really talk to about it. But if I'd known now, particularly how big the web became and how popular it came with, I could have had a huge agency, but it wasn't the right time for me. I was very young, and it was difficult. Now like my business, at the moment I've just pivoted it because I'm still, at 46, still working out what works with me and my ADHD. And actually my new pivot works really, really well. So I'm finally at age 46 found something that I love doing, and it's teaching and training and having a community. But it's that learning as you go along. What you said just so resonated with me, because what I know now compared to 25 years ago is hugely different.
I totally agree with you. So we have a few more questions from the audience. Thank you everyone for joining our live webinar. And I'm Dr. Shah Siddiqui, and I have Anna Bravington from ND Business Club. And we're going to be trying to answer some of your questions, because we have a lot other things to discuss with this webinar. And we are nearly halfway through. So I get one, the first one: how ND entrepreneurs balance innovation with structure? You mean business structure?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because in some ways they almost feel opposite ends of the scale, because innovation is around change, and and I know particularly from an ADHD background that actually we do love a bit of innovation, but we struggle with the structure. But actually I find that if you have the structure underlying, innovation is a bit more controlled and productive. And that's where I definitely struggle, because with anything, if you've got processes and structure, I'm a huge fan of talking about exit plans and business goals, where your business is going, because actually without that underlying structure, innovation is almost meaningless if it's not taking you somewhere. You have to go. One of my favorite quotes is from Alice in Wonderland, and she's talking to the Cheshire Cat, and she said, or something around, which way should I be going? And he says, well, where do you want to go? And she said, I don't know. And he says, well, no way is good for you, because you don't know where you want to go. So for me, I've been doing a lot of work with founders on sort of mission, vision, and end goals. Do you want to retire in 20 years with your business? Do you want to sell it? How much money do you? I did an exercise with ChatGPT where I worked out, if someone was going to retire in 10 years, how much would they need in the bank to keep them going till like 90, earning a certain amount per month, so that they sort of could work out, actually I need, and it was worked out something quite high, about 800, 900,000 pounds in the bank. So if you've got that, then you work backwards and sort of work where you want to go. And then innovation layers on top of that. Right, how could I get to this money? Right, this is what's popular in the market. This is where the money is. So I need to innovate around this area, or I need to do something here, because I know that I might be able to sell my company for £1 million in 10 years or something. So you have to work backwards to that structure, because otherwise you could just innovate until you die and not really get anywhere. I mean, I've had loads of amazing. Do you know what my latest idea is? And it's never going to happen. But I kind of like fruit and want to eat more fruit. And what I want someone to invent is fruit dips, because I don't like fruit on its own, and I want something to dip it in, like some like chocolate or honey sauces, but like not standard, like some ones that really go with fruit. I'm never going to invent it, because so if someone could invent that, that would be really good. Now that's innovation. There's something that I think people would like. Has it got anything to do with my business? No. So does it take me towards my goal? Absolutely not. So should I invent fruit dips? Probably not. I'll leave it out there in the world, and someone else can invent it for me, so I can buy it. And that's how you have to. If you don't have that structure, know where your business is going to go. I could easily start learning, because that's what I would do. I would go and learn how to make fruit dips. I would make them in my kitchen, and then I would try and sell them. And then I'd have two random sides of my business going in two different directions, and that just doesn't work. So don't go, if you're doing AI, don't make fruit dips. Choose what direction you're going in.
Thank you, Omar, for your questions. And for me, I totally agree with you, Anna, because you, as I said, as ND founders, you might have millions of ideas, but you need to see that millions of ideas, prioritizing which one you wanted to go for and which bandwidth you have. And we are very good at reverse engineering, and we would say that whenever I think, I can think about 360 degree. Reverse engineering is a core characteristics of, I think, most of the Andy founders, because you can see the end and you can start the beginning. So as Anna said, that you need to know you have money. That's one thing, because without money, if you wanted to do business, you can't do that, because you need to pay people, because everyone works for money. So if you don't have money, you have to earn money to start your projects, or you need to partner with someone. Sometimes you don't need always money. Sometimes you can have opposite partner. They can help you those things that you aren't good at, but those things you share, common, common views, but different bucket. So you have your personalities, you have different personalities, you can share benefits and all those things, but you grow your business in different directions, and that will support you. But if you think that, okay, most of the time we become very greedy, like, okay, I invented it and I wanted to the 100% things. At that time, most of the ideas will fall apart. Why? Because either you have to have money to hire those people to finish your work, or you have to engage with people with different characteristics to grow your business. Otherwise, you cannot. Like Anna, you say that, okay, a deep stake, but you don't have that expertise. But if you wanted to have this idea to grow this business, you need to find out someone. They have great enthusiasm, great idea, and they wanted to grow this business to the next levels. You might support them with specifically one or two things, but it's not your thing to do. But if you think about, okay, you wanted to grow an advertising business that you are doing, so that's your niche, that's you can do. That's you need someone to do, like the VA, some of the work, or maybe your business partner some of the work, and you grow together. So in that way, structure is very much needed for any business that you want to grow. So that's why we have different type of JD. We have different type of designation, like, okay, someone business development director, someone innovator, someone this, someone that. So this structure you mainly need, as well as the JD you also need, and the process you also need. Either you reverse engineer it, or either you think to go forward, like, okay, I wanted to start there, and I need an end there. So business process, JD, structure, is mostly any business they need to grow to the next levels.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's filling those gaps. I mean, I always talk about me and my business partner, and we're basically the same person. And it's lovely for harmonious sessions where we agree on everything, but then nothing gets done because I have ADHD. She thinks she probably has ADHD, or she has a lot of the traits, and we're too similar. And actually, this is why when I picked my assistant, I think we picked someone different because we can do the strategic side and agree with each other, and then she can come in and say, oh, hang on a minute, or yeah, and get stuff done for us. So we finally filled that gap.
I totally agree with you. I have another question, like, how can Andy founders create a work environment that supports both themselves and their team? I think these questions, thank you for sending this question, Saludin. This question is crucial. Why? Because sometimes we think when you're asking questions is not good. But as an Andy founders, you might have millions of questions, and you need to ask those questions to be clarified the work you're going to be doing with your team, with your partner, and with your client. And that's really needed. And when you wanted to create a work environment, you need to value everyone from top to bottom, everyone. Otherwise, if you do not value them, you cannot create a great work culture.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love things like someone showed me when they take on a client, they have a form which is, how do you like me to work with you? And I love this. It's like, do I prefer email, text messages? Do I need lots of instructions? Do I need this? Do I need that? And I think things like that are quite nice for internal teams as well. It's that real openness culture of are positives, but also not scared to talk about the things that we struggle with. Because a lot of the time, and we've talked about this before, Dr. Shah, haven't we, that people are scared to say about the things they struggle with at work, because
Mhm.
then they get, like stopped being invited for meetings and pushed to one side and passed over promotion. And what companies need to do is make it really open environment, really supportive, so people can just tell you what they need. Because every neurodiverse, every person, not even neurodivergent people, everyone works differently. Introverts, extroverts, everyone. And actually, I love this idea of just saying, this is what works for me best. This is how I work with people, and us all just being very open. And I like, when people give feedback, oh, I really struggled with the instructions you gave on that project because they weren't specific enough. If you've got a really, what do you call it, psychological safety sort of type of business where people can just say and be honest, I find that's the best. Because you know, we could give you some sort of techniques, and stuff, and there are some ones that you can use, but also just asking people what they need is, I find, is the best thing. And just
Mhm.
thinking about, how you run your meetings. Are they inclusive? Are they including people that need time to think? Do they include agendas that, people need some pre warning of what's going to happen? Do they let people that are introverts talk, or is it always the same voices? All of these type of things in every activity, just thinking about different personality types.
I totally agree with you, Anna, because if you do not value your colleagues, doesn't
Mm.
matter they have a small knowledge or a big knowledge, or they work on a really entry level jobs, or they work as a C-level jobs. It doesn't matter really. It matters that you value everyone. Sometimes idea can be created from the entry level jobs, and you as an expert, you can nurture that idea and grow that to the next levels. Because when you have something from entry level people, they don't have the expertise you have, but they are innovative, they have the idea, so you can grab that idea and value them and work with them to fulfill and succeed what you wanted to do. I think mostly in ND community and overall non-ND community as well, they fail to understand that. So if I'm experienced, I will not value unexperienced people. And there is also, I have seen that I'm newcomer, I have great ideas, I don't value the experienced person either. So if you cannot marry those up together, like, okay, you are a team, you're going to be working with, listening to them, and as well as sometimes I have seen that you are like a person that is senior to a junior one in age. Like, okay, you are experienced, but someone below your age is your line manager. So how do you value those relationships? Because when you have a line manager, they are half of your age, and you have knowledge and expertise, but they have the creativity and those things. That's why they're sitting over there. So you need to work together these gaps in between, otherwise you cannot grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, it's just that, I'm a big believer in, if you've got junior people, getting them to talk in front of the senior ones and helping to build their confidence. And when I grew more senior, sometimes I would go, it's a bit like undercover boss, where people go on the ground. I feel like those roles, you need to put yourselves in other people's shoes as well. So
Mhm.
get the, I used to get my junior team members doing presentations to the C-suite, oh, this is what we know about SEO, this is what we know about this. And actually the C-suite really appreciated it. The CFO once said to me, oh, no one's ever told me this before. This is really interesting. I didn't know this about marketing and how it worked. And he really appreciated it. And then it's really nice. I know that when I worked in retail, one of the places they would send you, when you first came there, you went and worked in a shop for the day, so that you didn't spend all of your life in head office and not actually realize what it's like on the ground. So just getting that sort of cross pollination of everyone, I feel like a bit of an empathy, understanding each other. I also did things like an innovation lab where, once again, worked in retail. And we got everyone to just submit ideas, no matter what part of the business you're from. So they all felt included and seen. It's just this sort of like making it a really nice culture where everyone's seen, heard, can talk openly without this fear of retribution, which I think is quite a lot of companies. And this is where your company will struggle if people are not being their best person.
I totally with you, Anna. So we have a next questions. What common growth uh, bottlenecks do and the founders face, and how can they avoid them?
Well, mine's always the doing. So I have the idea, and it gets to the idea, gets to like maybe the planning stage, and then actually I just don't do. And this is the thing, it can be different for lots of different founders.
Hmm.
I know some people that really struggle with the ideas side, and so they can't come up with the idea. But if someone gives them an idea, they can go and execute it. One of the biggest bottlenecks I find is sales and marketing, because weirdly, it's kind of strange that a lot of the ND founders I found that's the one they struggle most with. I think, some people, like you said earlier, a lot of people are introverted, don't like talking to people, and from an ADHD perspective, marketing sales is quite big topics and can be very overwhelming. You've got to decide who you're going to market to, where you are, where you're going to market to, and I think it's you have to find your own bottleneck. I know exactly what my bottleneck is. It is the doing, and I fulfilled that by getting a VA for me through Access to Work. That's helped me, but also trying to get, someone mentioned structure earlier, trying to get a bit of structure in place so that if I have an idea, is that take me through to, like, how can I get that all the way to actually actioning? And talking about the innovation that we talked about earlier, I do get shiny object syndrome problems. So I've just redone my business goals. They're almost the same, and my mission and vision to just, and actually I'm going to keep doing that yearly because I need to keep myself on track. And it's that eyes on the prize, isn't it? Where are you trying to go? But I
Hmm.
think it's back to that honesty. You've got to be self-aware and honest with yourself. What is your problem? What is your bottleneck? What is causing it? Often it's you. I'm not going to be mean, but it is often, whether you're neurodivergent or not, it's often you, or your business partner. There's something, normally quite high up that's causing a problem. Some of that might be that you're not delegating things. So there is, self-reflection at this stage is very important.
Yes, I totally agree with you, because sometimes we have a tendency, and the people, and now it's more, because people leveled some of the people, and the people they leveled us is superhuman. But for myself, I see it like, okay, we are not superhuman. Our genetic mutation is different with trial and error. So when you question yourself, like, okay, the things you wanted to do, is it right for your business? Is it are you making a good commitment with your team members? Are you following a strategic path that will give you some measurable outcomes? Those are the things you need to question yourself. Sometimes we carried out like, okay, I wanted to do this, and we engage so much, and at the end we don't think like, okay, what results we wanted to bring. So you need to think about the results first, and then reverse engineering it, and then lay out the bricks. Okay, I wanted to make a 20-foot bridge, and that bridge I wanted to go other on the other side, and what I need, what are resources I need, what materials I need, who do I talk to? Because if I don't have expertise, I may have expertise that I'm a builder, but every trade, you don't have everything. So you need to combine with some of the people to finalize and to reach your goals. So that a way, and question yourself, that okay, question yourself, is it right? And how you can make it better. If you can self reflect and self judge yourself, you will be a good team player. You will listen to people, and you will value other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I know it's really harsh, I said about this sort of that self-reflection that's blockers, but it is, if we're really serious about our business succeeding, and because this is our business, this is our money, this is our life, if you're really serious about that succeeding, you have to do the hard things. There's a quote that someone said, which was, the magic you are looking for is in the tasks that you are avoiding. And I love that because, we're often looking for that. What's going to make me my million, what is it, Del Boy from Only Fools and Horses? This time next year, Rodney will be millionaires, he says. And, what is we're always going, oh, he was always searching for the next big thing, the next big thing, next big thing. But it's often in those things that we're avoiding, those blockers, that actually, if we just manage to get round, what I think the problem is, and I do this too, it's the hard things. Sometimes you can't push yourself to do them, and that's what blocks you. For me, it is the doing. I push, and I'm like, I know I need to do it. I know I need to do it, and it hangs over like a black cloud over me, of like, I really need to do this. Why am I not doing it? And it's very frustrating, but that's where this sort of doing of marketing and reach out and things like that, that's my blocker. And I've had to self-reflect quite a lot recently on what, give myself a slap around the face. What's going on? Why can't I do it? And some of it is, I have ADHD, I can't remove that. And there are chemical, genetic things that are going on in my brain and body that are stopping me doing that. And so back to what Dr. Shah was saying, I've got to find a way around that. I've got to find a way around that blocker. So once you're self-aware, what can you do? And sometimes it might be access to work might be able to help. Get yourself an assistant, get yourself a partner. There are local things as well, like where I work at Fareham Innovation Centre sometimes, and we have like growth clinics that Hampshire County Council put on, Fareham Council put loads of stuff on. So actually there might be some local stuff that you can do that helps as well. So, do look out for those things that help you around those blockers, because they are frustrating. It is hard.
I totally agree with you. And another thing that I wanted to share here, like, you need to engage with people. Either you like it or dislike it. If you are a founders and if you wanted to have a business and support a community, I think the first thing is for you to move out from the barriers that you have introverted characteristics. You have to go out. You have to go to different groups, and there are lots of hundreds of different groups. They do business talks. They do a lot of other things. You don't need to be to engage every groups, but you can go over there and see them, and you will learn how they are doing businesses, and you will find some young people, you will find some experienced people over there, and you can self-judge yourself. And another thing I wanted to discuss in the last few minutes, Anna, anti people, they have self-doubt, like, okay, can I do it, or am I capable enough to do it? And as well as external biases, like, okay, so what people will say if I cannot do it. So in that scenario, how would you recommend yourself, or what you do as a ND founders?
Do you know what? It's something that's historical in us, because when we were children, there's research, I think it's something like, is it neurodivergent children have something like 20,000 extra negative responses that they have to deal with. I think it was every year or something, but it was quite large. It was all these extra sort of little comments, jibes that you have. Oh, it's not very organized. Oh, she's a bit talkative. Constant little things nipping away at you throughout your sort of childhood and teens. And so we do get this sort of, we're not good enough. There's a lot of stats around neurodivergent people and anxiety and stress, and it's being aware that actually that has probably affected you, and it will have affected how you see yourself. So you might feel, and also I know in ADHD is rejection sensitive dysphoria, I think it's called as well. So there's all these areas where you feel like you're not good enough. And actually, back to what you're saying, Dr. Shah, meeting people, I love meeting other neurodivergent founders, and we all go, oh, I feel like that too. And we sort of all support each other, but even other business owners where we support each other through it, because it takes, I think I've said this before, it takes a village to raise a child, but I feel like it takes a community to raise a business. You don't have to, we always think we have to do it on our own, but we don't. That is not giving in if we have people helping us and we go to communities. And sort of back to your point, Dr. Shah, if you're introverted and an idea of talking to loads of people is difficult, find one person that you can have a peer-to-peer conversation with. Or if you go to networking, say, I'm going to speak to one person this session. Just set yourself small goals of what you're going to do to be able to help yourself past that, because you don't have to talk to everyone in the room. You could say, I'm going to talk to one person, I'm going to talk to two people. And then that's it. That's all you need to do. Because I find that I go to networking and I'm like, talk to a couple and I'm like, I've had enough now. I'm just going to stand in the corner and watch for a bit. There's no, take away those preconceived ideas. It will take years to try and undo everything. But it's worth going. And you mentioned earlier, Dr. Shah, coaching is really good for helping get rid of some of those old preconceived ideas as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because as Andy, people and working with ND people, I have found that yes, we have self-doubt. I shared most of the time that I was very much introverted in my childhood, and I used to hide under sofa, bed, behind my mom's, and I was afraid of the world. But look who I am now. I'm very extroverted now, and I teach people. I work with people. I mentor people. I'm a good speaker. But these characteristics, as I said, it did not grow in 1 or 2 days. You need to find your niche. And based on that niche, if you wanted to become an entrepreneur, you have a great ideas, then you need to overcome your barriers. But overcoming barriers is not such a way that you wanted to fulfill the gaps you have at the first point. You need to make yourself stronger the point you have right now. Like, okay, you have a very excellent idea, so you make yourself excellent first and increase that productivity, and gradually we will find out, okay, what I can do to minimize those things because I'm struggling there. Or maybe you will find something, okay, I'm struggling there. So then gradually it will not, you can't overcome it in next day. It will take time. You have to have plans, methodology, work with someone, and then you can make yourself as a solid person at the end. But don't afraid, don't afraid. If you wanted to become entrepreneur, you can, but you have to invest your time, energy, money, and we have to work with people. Otherwise, you cannot become an entrepreneur and serve other people.
Do you know what? It's funny, you were saying about being under the table. I remember I was about 10 or 11, and I vividly remember that when I was 10 or 11, I wouldn't even laugh out loud. I had a silent laugh because I was so introverted and so nervous about being in the world that even when I laughed, it was completely silent because I wanted no one to notice me. And look, I have my podcast. I'm doing this with you, Dr. Shah. You know, you can sort of help learn these things, and particularly getting over that sort of rejection side of things. I mean, when
Mhm.
I started doing podcasting, I actually hadn't really done any videos or podcasts. My first podcast was 4 years ago, and in one of my communities, one of the chaps knew that I was struggling with video. So just safely in the community, he did things like 2 truths, 1 lie and things like that. We just did safe little videos where we paste them out, and actually finding that safe place that you can practice and try things. That meant the world to me. And then look, I'm on my second podcast now. I'm doing lives with Dr. Shah. And do I need to sit down after I've done a live or a podcast? Absolutely, because it's still overwhelming for me. But I do them, and then back to that sort of structure, knowing yourself. Then I have a sit down for half an hour. I will then be able to tackle the next task. So you can sort of work your way around these things as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Anna. We're nearly end of our session. We're going to be say bye bye to the audience. But before I say bye bye to the audience, I just wanted to say your first initiative will not be perfect. If you see our podcast, my podcast, when I started 4 5 years before, people laughed at me like, okay, you cannot pronounce certain words, you have problems, memory problems, those things, you can't be a good podcaster. And I challenged myself. And after 5 years, you can see that, yes, I'm doing well, I'm doing great, and I will improve further.
Mm.
So it's not like that one time developments. We develop over time, we learn over time. So, Anna, thank you very much for your time today. And thank you, all the audience. You have hopefully enjoyed our talk. And we're going to be welcome you to the next episode of Andy Business Club podcast in 11th of on 11th of December. And we're going to be talking what legislation do we need to change for Andy people in the UK, and we are working for that last 2 years. Although we have a great vision, we haven't reached that vision yet, but we know that when we working with people for you, we will reach there.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and bye bye for today.
Bye.